When I saw this month's theme, I was really pleased because I think March is an ideal time to talk about hope. Because what I really love and what I hoped about more than anything else when I was growing up was basketball. And March is clearly the month for basketball. And I'd like to tell you about the hopes I grew up with around basketball. Like a lot of kids, I had a driveway behind my house, and we had an old garage that was like a barn, and my dad had nailed up a hoop, and we played back there. And basketball was an ideal sport. You could be by yourself. You didn't need 10 people to play. You could just be by yourself and fantasize about a game and always hit the winning shot. And I spent hours back there by myself just loving basketball. And then my brother started to play high school basketball. And we lived in the town of Waynesburg, which is about 50 miles south of Pittsburgh and about 20 miles north of Morgantown, West Virginia. It gives you an idea of the cultural feel there. And my brother played high school basketball in the high school gym at Waynesburg High School. And Waynesburg High School was one of those old high school buildings that was built back in the 1930s, and it looked like a red brick Parthenon. It was a huge, massive building with big columns, and it was kind of the centerpiece of the town. But in that building was the gymnasium where the basketball team played. And unlike most gyms today, there were no bleachers on the same level as the basketball court. The bleachers were all in a balcony that surrounded the court. And so you sat in the balcony and looked down on the game below you. And it was a really cool way to watch basketball. And I grew up watching my brother and his team play, and then we kept on, we went to every game from the time I was in kindergarten till, at least till through junior high. And we always sat in the same spot. We sat in one corner of that balcony, and we sat in the first row. And that way I could stand in front of the seats in the first row and lean out over that balcony. And I felt like I was part of the game. It was amazing. So I grew up doing that. And of course, as I did that year after year and game after game, I began to envision myself playing in one of those games. And I started to have a very detailed vision of what I would do if I ever got the chance to play on that court. And that I would dribble the ball up that court and cross the half court line. And at the other end of the court from where we sat, there was a scoreboard. And I would be dribbling the ball up to that end of the court. And at some point I would stop and I would launch a shot. And every time in my vision of it and my hope, it swished through the net. So I had that vision constantly for years growing up. And then I finally was approaching 7th grade. And 7th grade was where junior high basketball started. And they played on that same court. So I went out for the team. And I was a little bit worried because at the same time the school district was building a big new high school outside of town, a consolidated district. And in that one, they had a big new gym with the bleachers on the same level as the court, and it wasn't the same at all. I wanted to play on that old court under the balcony. So 7th grade, I thought might be my last chance to do that. I wasn't sure, but I for sure was going to go out for the team. The other problem I had was our coach, who was a great guy. His name was Homer Schaefer. Junior high consisted of 7th, 8th, and 9th grade players, and Homer was serious about basketball. He wanted to win. So only 9th graders got to play. The 8th graders, they might occasionally get in the game as a substitute. The 7th graders, there were only 5 of us 7th graders. We were down at the end of the bench. We never got in. He told us at the beginning of the year, you're never going to play. You get to dress for the games, you get to warm up, but you're going to sit at the end of the bench. So that's what we did. Until we came down toward the end of the year, and we'd had a pretty good year, and we're playing the weakest team in the league on the last game of the year. And Coach Schaefer said, you know, you seventh graders have practiced hard and tried hard all year. You've never gotten in a game. If we have a big lead in the fourth quarter, I'm going to try to get you in the game. So sure enough, the team played really well. The weak team cooperated, didn't play well. And suddenly, Coach Schaefer called timeout with 40 seconds left. I'll never forget. 40 seconds left, he put all 5 seventh graders in the game. And he told one of my teammates, you take the ball out of bounds and pass it into Mike. As soon as he said that, I knew I was going to get a chance to shoot, because once I got the ball, nobody else was going to get it. And so my friend takes the ball out of bounds, he passes it into me, I start dribbling up the court, and it's just like I had imagined it. And I get to half court, which, if you understand basketball, half court is 47 feet from the basket. I got 2 feet beyond half court, and nobody had come out to guard me yet, and I thought, it's now or never. So I stopped, and I took a 45-foot shot, and it went straight through the net, swish. And I don't know what I did for the next 30 seconds while the rest of the game played out, but I was thrilled, and Mr. Schaefer kidded me about having the best shooting percentage on the whole team that year. And so I've always associated basketball with hope, and that was a great first lesson in hope for me.